Hey guys, it's your boy Kenny Boulder, and this video is a tier list of all the Warhammer 40K Horus Heresy novels. So I've read all the Horus Heresy books throughout the past 15 plus years, starting in 2007. And basically, this is a list that will capture all of the books, from the best to the worst, ones you can skip, etc. So with that in mind, let's get into the books and let's go over on this tier list. So I found this tier list on just, Horus Heresy Book Tier List Maker, updated 2020-101, which makes sense because that's when really the Horus Heresy book novels ended, and they added all the books here. So all the books are here, and we're going to go over which ones are going to be my absolute favorites, great sci-fi reads, good reads, decent reads, read it purely for the lore, terrible, had to force myself to finish it, and collections, just having it. So luckily for me, I have all these books. You can see in the back over here, guys. So I have all these books behind me, and we're just going to go over each in order of when they came out. So let's see if we can find Horus Rising. Horus Rising goes up to absolute favorites. It is literally the introduction of the Horus Heresy. It is the introduction of Loken, one of the main characters of the Horus Heresy, and it's by Dan Abnett the Great himself. I highly, highly recommend it, because it literally starts the whole entire Horus Heresy, which is Horus Rising. Book 2, I believe, is going to be, let's see, Galaxy in Flames is book 3. And I honestly should have gotten this because I'm going off by memory. And also, this is not in order, so this is kind of a pain in the butt. Fulgrim is book 4. Legion's book 5, I think. There's a lot of books here. False Gods is book 2, okay? I think False Gods, I think it's a great book. It's a great book because it basically introduces a lot of lore. It's maybe good reads. I would say it's between great sci-fi books and good reads. I'll be honest, it's not like the greatest of the Horus Heresy books, and I don't know if it's gonna be that much. I mean, you have to read it. Like, let me be very clear. You have to read this book. False Gods is important. Literally, it starts the whole chain reaction to the Horus Heresy. So you have to read it. I'm sorry. You just have to. So it's important to note that, and that's very important. So we're going to go back in our books section here. Galaxy in Flames is book 3. And I also think it's the Battle of Estevan. So I think the Battle of Estevan, it is a good read. It's a good read. It's sad. It's epic. There's a lot of moments where, you feel really, really depressed. And I think that Galaxy Flames is in that good read section. Book 4 is not Fulgrim. Fulgrim's book 5. Shoot. What is book 4? This is so bad. I'm just going to look this up real quick. Alright, The Flight of the Eisenstein. Flight of the Eisenstein, yes, that is book 4. And again, I did not make this list, so this is all spread out here. Here we go. But Flight of the Eisenstein, I think I would say it's a decent read. I mean, obviously Garo is a great character and is introduced, and there's a lot of moments with him, but I don't think it's a good enough, it's a lot of stuff. Don't get me wrong. It's very important to read, very important to know that this is the continuation of the Horus Heresy, so I think it's important. Fulgrim is next. Fulgrim is definitely, I really enjoyed Fulgrim. I think the Fall of Fulgrim and the Emperor's Children is really good, and obviously Graham McNeil does an amazing job. And I think that itself, the Dropside Massacre is in Fulgrim, and I think that's just a huge part of the Horus Heresy, and it really affects most of the other books as well. So I think next one is going to be Descent of Angels, which is the first of our line books of the Dark Angels. I think, I'll be honest, I think you read it for the lore, just because it doesn't add too much stuff, and it kind of is its own area. It doesn't add too much to the Horus Heresy. It's just more focused upon the Dark Angels, and that's really cool. Dark Angels, and you like the Dark Angels, which you should highly recommend reading it. So there's that. Legion's next. I think Legion is a great sci-fi novel. A lot of folks hate Perpetuals and the introduction of, John Grammaticus, but I really enjoyed it. I think Legion's great. Honestly, Dan the Man wrote this one, and it gave me really big appreciation for the Alpha Legion and introduced a lot of cool concepts and really the beginning of the seeds of the Horus Heresy. So that's it. Mechanicum is next. I think Mechanicum is a great sci-fi novel. I think the whole Martian Civil War on Mars is pretty cool and very important to the lore. And also, you get a lot of stuff. Like, I think Mechanicum is pretty good overall, you know? The fact that we have the Martian Civil War, all the stuff happening on the Mars, and it really affects most of the universe of Warhammer 40K, because then you have the Dark Mechanicus, and then you have the Adeptus Mechanicus, and it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Next is going to be Tales of Heresy, an anthology. So Tales of Heresy, I think it is in Read for the Lore. My memory is a little hazy because this came out in 2009, so that just tells you kind of a bit like how I feel about that book. It's just kind of like I read it through it, got through the lore, have it in my collection, etc. But I think there's a couple of big stuff about it I want to say. I think it introduces Blood Games. I think Blood Games is very important. And The Last Church is one of the best. Actually, it is a decent. I'm above a decent read. Because The Last Church and Blood Games, Last Church is very phenomenal. It is one of the best short stories of all time with the Emperor of Mankind. You know what? I'm bumping this to Goodreads because of The Last Church. One short story, it's a good read. Highly recommend. Fallen Angels is next. I think Fallen Angels, I don't even remember much about it. I'm going to be honest with you right now. It's been a hot minute. This came out, what, 2009 as well. So, 2009, Fallen Angels. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Fallen Angels. Here we go. I think it's another Dark Angels series. You know, read it freely for the lore. I don't really remember much about it. I think... obviously, I think the Dark Angels are exiled, and some stuff begins, and people are not happy, and at one point, you know, like, there's a bomb moment, and then the Lion bashes a bunch of Dark Angels. I think it's, read it for the lore. 1,000 Suns. 1,000 Suns is a great sci-fi novel. Again, by the great himself, Graham McNeil. I think 1,000 Suns, it just hits all the marks, you know. It's impactful. It's huge in the lore. You know, Magnus did nothing wrong. Magnus destroyed the Webway project. Like, it is good. It is a tragedy. It is about sorrow. It's about revenge. It's about, like, mistakes. You know, like, it's a good book. I think it's a good book. I'm going to put it in Sci-Fi Great Reads. Nemesis. This is I think the assassination one, right? I think this is the kill team that tries to kill Horus. I think it's a decent read. It's one of those books, you know, like, it doesn't impact the story by too much, but, you know, we get introduced with a couple of big characters. Kel, who tries to assassinate, you know, the first saint of the Imperium, and I think that's important. And then you have Malcador being kind of a, you know, shady business kind of guy. So I think it's a decent read. I read that actually in Vietnam when I went there in 2012, I think, or 2011. I don't know. I read this book when I was like in another country. The First Heretic. This is one of my favorite authors, Aaron Deminsky Bowden. He starts introducing his books. I think hands down, The First Heretic is absolute favorites. It's so good. It's so good. Logar, you know, is introduced with his own story. We have custodians. We have a lot of stuff to unpack here, because who is the first heretic? Is it really Logar, or is it the Emperor of Mankind? Like, who sees who? And I think one of these books, I mean, The First Heretic is that good. And the cover is sick. You know, it's a possessed word bearer fighting as a custodian. I think a lot of folks really like it. Next one is Prospero Burns. I know this is by Dan Abnett, but, like, I think it is, simply put, I mean, even though it is the Space Wolves' his own story, and we get a lot of Space Wolves lore, and you see a lot of Lemon Russ, and a lot of the stuff there, I think this is kind of like right between great sci-fi novels and good reads. I think it's more in line with, in my opinion, great sci-fi reads, because it's, you know, Dan does a good job with characterizing the Space Wolves, talking about how the Space Wolves culture, introducing Scalds, introducing Bajorn, the Fell-Handed. There's a lot of lore there, and I appreciate that. Age of Darkness is another of the is next, and that's another anthology of books. I don't know. I think Age of Darkness. I think there's a lot of stuff. I think it's a decent read. It's a decent read. So we're still not here yet, which is kind of surprising because I have a lot of good feelings with the books. I'm getting off of years of good vibes. So we haven't had anything bad yet. Outcast Dead. I actually really like the Outcast Dead. I think it is a good read because it's just a story of some Space Marines on Terra, and we're on Terra for, I think, for one of the first times ever, and we have even some Thunder Warriors in there. I think it's a good read. It's a quick story, and one of my favorite moments in that book is the Emperor meets the Psyker who's trying to give him this message, and he's like, "You'll die," and the Emperor's like, "I know," and then that's just, it's good. It's good. Next one is Deliverance Lost, 2012. Deliverance Lost, ooh, that's, I think it's also a good read. I actually really like the Korax books. The Korax books always, he's kind of like underrated. I think Korax is underrated because, he's kind of like the He-Man, Space Marine guy with his wings, and I think it's a good read. I have good vibes off of it. Obviously, it's, follows his story of the Estefan drop site massacre, and I think that's pretty cool. No Fear is next. No Fear is I think great. Not absolute favorite, but like it is a great book. It is so good. The Battle of Kelth is so good, and obviously we have our boy Robert Guilliman. Guilliman is a great character. I know there's a lot of folks who are like bandwagoners for the Ultramarines, but I love the Ultramarines, and it is a great book about him. And I just appreciate the fact that the cover literally him is like punching guys in outer space, and it's so good. It's so good. Next is the Primarchs. That's also an anthology. I think the Reflection Cracked. Yeah, that's a pretty metal one. I think I would put this in the decent reads as well. And I hate to put the anthologies all like in the decent reads. There's just some good, some bad. It's okay. Some of them I kind of like. I would say I read it for the lore, and then other ones I'm like, it's actually really good. So I think the Reflection Cracked is pretty scuffed, and it is a fun read, but it's pretty scuffed. Next one is Fear to Trend. That's the Sanguinius book. Cygnus Prime, yeah. I would say this is one of the good reads here, because it does really follow the Blood Angels and their whole thing, their lore, and you get to see them. And it took us actually a long time. I remember waiting for many, many years to talk and read about the Blood Angels, and everyone got really excited because obviously throughout all the first 7 books, everyone talks about Sanguinus being like, this is the coolest guy of all time. He is the beloved brother, the best of us, amongst us. And so when you see his first book and he fights off a Khorne blood not prince, a greater demon, it's pretty sick. So I think it's a good time. Next one is Shadows of Treachery. This is another anthology book. Crimson Fist, Prince of Crows, The Lightning Tower. There's a lot of good books in here. I would say Shadows of Treachery would probably be in the good reads section because it has some decent, short stories. I think out of all the ones I can see here, I love the Crimson Fist is good. The Prince of Crows, phenomenal, because the Night Lords were very, very much anti-heroes, and I feel like that Prince of Crows short novel adds a lot of lore. Next one, Angel Exterminatus. Ooh, Perturbo and Fulgrim book. I think this is a great sci-fi read. It's just, it's a good book because Perturbo didn't really get his moment until this book, and it's so sad. Like, there's a lot of great moments when Perturbo is punching Fulgrim in the face, the assassination attempt with Fulgrim in the amphitheater, the fact that then the story is Fulgrim's ascension to Greater Demonness, or Greater Demon Prince, sorry, not Demonness. It is what it is. I liked it. Alright, next one. Betrayer. Oh. Mmm. Aaron. Bro, Aaron, where is Betrayer? Where is it? Where is Betrayer? Betrayer. Am I like, there it is. It is easily absolute favorites. Like, I just said, I really like Aaron Dembski's books. He is phenomenal. Betrayer is so good. Literally, the story about Angron and Logar doing the Shadow Crusade, the Battle of Aramatra. Like, literally, I remember these things. Like, it is rent-free in my brain. And one of the most iconic moments is Get Up, you know, with Karn the Betrayer, or at that time, you know, Centurion Karn, just saying, get up to Urbius. It's so good. It's so good. Rent-free in my brain. Really like Betrayer. Came out almost 10 plus years ago. Mark of Kelth. I gotta be honest here. Mark of Kelth, I think it's read for the lore. Like, it's a short story anthology of the Battle of Kelth, and at that point, it's just like Tunnel Wars and stuff like that. I think you read for the lore. It's, you know, it is what it is. And it's a good book. I don't even really remember any good short stories. Read it for the lore. Next one is gonna be Vulcan Lives. Yo, amazing, great. No, I think it's a great read. I don't think it's a good read. I think it's a good read, just because, you know, for so many years we're all wondering if Vulcan lives, if Vulcan is dead, and lo and behold, the book title is called Vulcan Lives. So I appreciate that. It took almost like 15 years for us to know if he's dead or alive, and there it is, Vulcan lives, and we are introduced with him being in a perpetual, which I think is probably one of the most craziest parts of the Warhammer 40K universe, is the, you know, perpetuals and his sons being perpetuals. Unremembered Empire. This one's kind of hard for me because it is a Dan Abnett book, but my feelings, my vibes is Unremembered Empire is, I think it's also a good read as well. It's not great. It's not a favorite for me. It's a good read just because it is about the other Space Marine factions who are trapped within the Rune Storm, and the fact that it focuses around that. Again, it does interest, you know, Guilliman's mom, and I think that's very amazing and powerful because we don't really ever see female characters in the Horus Heresy. And then here we have one. We have his mother, his, you know, adoptive mother, and I think it's important. And that cover with Sanguinus being, it literally is like the last page of the book. And I was like, oh, okay, that's it. Scars, okay. Chris Wright, phenomenal author. I love his books. He is also like that, like trio, you know, quad trio of like good authors for the Horus Heresy. I think Scars itself, that whole story is a great sci-fi read. The White Scar Civil War. I really enjoyed it. It's a good book. It was a good time. I think I have only positive things to say about that. I think introducing all the Brotherhoods was great. And so next one's going to be Vengeful Spirit. Vengeful Spirit, man, that's a tough one. I like the book, but I don't think it was that great. I want to say, because it's a Battle of Melek, and it's very important because Horus at this time becomes like actually like dangerous. So I think it is a good read, is the Vengeful Spirit. The Battle of Melek is pretty good. You have like incestuous, like, you know, night houses going around. You have a pretty good amount of bolter like battles and stuff like that in the book, but and then you have another perpetual as well. I think it's a good read. It's a good read. The Damnation of Pythos. I think. I'm gonna be real with you guys. I mean, it's a good spooky book, but it follows a Shadow Legion book, and I think for me personally, I read it for the lore, but I also feel like it was not that great. I mean, it is very much spooky. Yeah, I think I read it for the lore. I read it, I mean, honestly, it is part of my collections. It's hard. It's in the bottom of these three, let's just say. The bottom of these three for the Damnation of Pythos, and I get it. The Damnation of Pythos goes into another Warhammer 40K book, which is the Battle of with the, you know, Grey Knights later on, and the ship itself is, you know, part of the lore, so I think it is important to read it because it gives you background for the lore. Legacies of Betrayal is next. And Legacies of Betrayal is, I don't even remember much about it. Brother of the Storm, Riven, Virtus Verum, Karn, the Eightfold Path. I'm gonna say Legacies of Betrayal is... I don't know, man. Legacies of Betrayal would probably be for the lore. Have we gone through the Battle of the Fierce Abyss yet? Did I skip that? I did. Oh my gosh, this is actually terrible. I think this is yeah. Battle for the Abyss goes to terrible. I have to force myself to read them. I'm gonna be real with you. It's not great. It's literally an Ultramarine saves the day kind of book. So, yeah, I think that deserves to be in that little spot right there. Sorry, I did not realize I skipped it. That's my bad. Did not realize that was like book like 7. Jesus. Where were we? We were on Deathfire. I think Deathfire's a decent read. I mean, it's a Salamander book. You know, they're trying to get Vulcan to live. I think it goes on decent reads. Next one, War Without End, another anthology book. How the Hearthwold's really good. Lord of the Red Sands is also really good. But other than that, Allegiance is pretty good too. I would say War Without End goes to Read for the Lore. Because I think I didn't really, like, I don't remember like 3 of the 5, or 3 of like the 9 short stories. Pharos! I think Pharos is a good read. I really like Pharos. I know, like, you know, I'm a fan of Dantic. Dantic, he's the Iron Wars loyalist. He's in Pharos. Night Lords running around. I love talking swords. Good times. Yeah, Eye of Terra, which is the next book. That is the anthology. Long Night's good. Aurelian's also good. I think I would say Eye of Terra is probably going to be in decent reads section. Okay, where are you? There you are. Decent reads. Next one, The Path of the Heaven. Path of Heaven's so fucking good. I think Path of Heaven, it belongs in the greats. It really does. Path of Heaven's so good. It's just like, I don't know how to describe it to you guys. Like, Yagisai, he's like the White Scar's librarian, chief librarian. He has like a beautiful moment, and I really like it. And I think it closes a lot of the stories, and has a pretty epic climactic battle between, you know, the White Stars, Gigante Khan versus, Mortorion. So I think that's very, you know, it's a good book. It's a good book. I highly recommend. Made me really think a lot about life and stuff like that. So I really like Path of Heaven. The Silent Wars next. That's another anthology. There's a lot of anthology books. Anthology. This has The Purge. I actually like that short story. Lost Sons, The Sigilite. I think The Silent War goes to decent reads as well. Let's put you there. Silent War. There you go. Decent reads. Angels of Calabyne. That was a pretty bonkers one. It's literally, what was it? The Lion versus what's his name? Lion versus Batman. Oh my gosh, what's his name? Conrad Cruz. That's right. Lion versus Conrad Cruz. I felt like it's also a decent read. I did not have too much. I think I just kind of read through it. I think it was decently though. So Angels of Calabyne, decent read. Next is gonna be Victorian of Dorn, The Battle of Pluto. I think that is a good read for sure. Good read for sure. I loved the fact that, you know, Alpha Legion versus Imperial Fist, that whole story was pretty good. And obviously, you know, spoilers, the last duel between I think it was Alpharus versus Rogel Dorn was pretty sick, you know, like it was a good time. So gonna put that there in good reads because I enjoyed that battle. Korax, the anthology. There's a lot here. I would say Korax I really liked it. I would say it's a decent read. I think Korax is a decent read. It's just there's a lot of short stories, and some of it's kind of like miss, and some of it's hits. I think it's a decent read, and you also get more Korax stuff. Master of Mankind. I say no more. It is. Nope. Sorry. It is my absolute favorite. It's so good. It is so good. The Master of Mankind with the Custodians, Silent Sisterhood, with the tech guy, Mr. Arkin Land, and The Bringer of Sorrow. Like, it's such a good book. It's so good. Aaron, I love you, Aaron. If you're watching this, man, you do some great stuff with the tier list. You're on top of your game when you're on your game. Garo is another anthology. I think it is a decent read. It's just, Army, Weapon of One. It's all the, the Chosen short stories. I think it's decent. Nothing crazy. Shattered Legions is another anthology. So we just had like back-to-back anthologies. That's crazy. It has introduced Medusan. Medusan is like really good. I like his short stories. I'm gonna say because of that, Legions gets to be in the good reads section because Shardak Medusan is great. He's fantastic, and there's a lot of other short stories as well. And I think that focusing on 3 Legions in one book is also a plus as well. The Crimson King. I think the Crimson King is, the War for Magnus' Soul. I think this is one of probably the good reads. It's not as good and amazing as 1,000 Suns, but it is still a good book about the 1,000 Suns now. And I still enjoyed it. Next one is Talarn. I think Talarn... I actually really enjoyed the Battle of Talarn. I think this is a good read as well. It's focused on one planet, and it is like some crazy bolter like war, and the biggest tank war in history happened on Talarn, and I think I really enjoyed that. Runestorm, the Ultramarines, Blood Angels, and the Dark Angels try to go through the Runestorm. It's a good read. I think I enjoyed it. I think a lot of the space battles are kind of meh, but I enjoyed it a lot. Old Earth is next, also a good read as well. Just because it introduces a lot of lore. Like, oh my gosh. A lot of lore with the, with Vulcan and meeting with all, like, the other Shattered Legion stuff. I just have good, like, it's a good book. It gives Vulcan justice. It gives a lot of, like, the Shattered Legions justice. I'm a big fan for these guys, and obviously enjoyed it a lot. The Burden of Loyalty. This came out in 2018. I would say the Binary Succession. I think it's important to read for the lore. I would put that there, honestly. Some of the stuff is not that great, but I think it's important. Actually, I put a decent read. There's some decent books in there. I think the Binary Succession is important because you have to kind of read for the lore, but there's some other good stories that were added there as well. Wolf's Bane. I actually really like Wolf's Bane. Just because it is literally Lemon Russ's like last stand of sorts, and after this he's kind of irrelevant. So I will say Wolfsbane in all. Loken's back, and I like Loken. I'm gonna put Wolfsbane with a great sci-fi read, just because it is a book about plot armor and giants fighting giants. Next one, Born of Flame, which is another anthology book. I would say this is a decent read section. Like, this is a lot, and I think it's okay. So, I will put, decent read. Next one is gonna be Slaves to Darkness by John French. Yeah, it talks a lot about Malagast. This is the Malagast book when he's trying to keep everyone together. This is a tough one for me. I actually enjoyed it. I won't say it's a good read because you do see the depravity of the Chaos Space Marines and the traitors and them actually falling apart. So I think it's a good read. It's a good read. Next one is gonna be Heralds of the Siege, which is an anthology book, and I would say there's Black Shield. There's gonna be Duty Calls. The board is set. I'm going to say Heralds of the Siege is probably a decent read as well, because some of these stories I do remember and having good feelings about. The Pain and Count, also fun stuff. Next one is going to be the Titan Death, which is the Battle of Beta Gamon. Betagamon. I don't know how to describe it. I actually really like this book as well because the whole Titans are clashing out. It's pretty intense, and you have some like, you know, traitor and loyalist like lore with all the Titans, and I think this is probably a good read as well. The Buried Dagger, which is the last book, which is the Fall of Motorion, and it's pretty brutal. I think it's a good read. I would say it's maybe between great and good, just because it's so dark, it's so depressing. Like, you see the fall of the Death Guard, and I definitely, it's brutal, man. It's so brutal. So, here's my tier list, guys. This is my tier list, folks. So, again, I appreciate you guys watching. Let me know what you think about this tier list here for the Horus Heresy tier list. And again, I don't think there's any books that I just add as a collection. I mean, I really would take this out, honestly, because I don't really have that mindset of collecting just a book. I have opinions on books if they're bad, which the Battle of this was, but, you know, I think these are the best books, and all of them, again, Aaron Dubinsky is great, Dan Abnett, and of course Chris Wright. I think they're my favorite authors, but obviously a lot of these other sci-fi books are good as well. So, yeah, guys, this is it. Let me know how you feel about it in the comments. Like, subscribe, and comment, guys. I really appreciate your time, guys. It's your boy, Kenny Boulder. You have a great night, guys, and I'll see you around there, y'all. So take care. Peace.